In previous videos, we have set up pricing for our frames. So if I go here to show what's being quantified, you can see that our top hats, our rafters, they're being included there, but not the doors, not the cladding. So just as you know, cladding is generally the most expensive item in a shed. So let's quantify them so we can have a better understanding of how we can do this. So if I just search for cladding in my pricing database, I don't have anything, but maybe trim deck. So there we go. I have trim deck in zinc and color bond. So I'm just gonna open these two, and maybe I'm gonna add cover sheets for trim deck and corrugated as well. So this is for delivery. So we have one cover sheet that's gonna protect our trim deck and color bond, zinc and color bond. So let's link to the calculation. And I might have other specific ones like corrugated. Going back to the pricing database, corrugated. So I have corrugated zinc. So just link to the calculation as well. So now we have a few items here to add to my shed. So I can see that there is an error there, trim deck zinc. Yeah, there's no category for that one. So let me go back there and just select a category for those items. So corrugated. There we go. Corrugated zinc and color bond and cover sheets. They'll all go as claddings. Okay. And trim deck, just select these two here as well and just say, hey, this is going to be claddings. There we go. We can deal with the other items later. So let's just jump to my pricing calculations, and now I don't have those arrows anymore. So something else to do here is just add our groups. So as I said, we're building up here from scratch our first pricing database. And in groups, this is going to be defined by the different markups, tax, and discounts we can apply for items. So we're going to cover this later. But for all of the items that I'm dealing with here in my pricing calculation, they're all shed kit. So I can put here shed kit and maybe just change the color, and that's it. So all of these items, they go to the shed kit group, and if I go to the groups now, I'll be able to add a specific markup for my shed kit items, and then I could have here shed kit or concreting price or erection price or admin price, kind of planning approval or council approval, things like that. And even specific discounts that could be applicable for each one of these specific groups. But for now, let's focus on our trim deck items. So let's start with trim deck zinc. So what I'm trying to do here is look in my model if I have any trim deck zinc. What I like to do is duplicate my screen, and this is mostly, you don't have to do it, that's mostly a trick I like to use. Open that model and then select items. I have zinc here, but I don't have corrugated apparently. Yep, I have corrugated and zinc. All right. I like to have both in the model that I'm actually using to build my database, because as I am creating those items, I can see that they are being added to the model. So this helps me to make sure that I'm quantifying the right items. So let's start with trim deck zinc. So I'm looking for claddings in linear meters. So Shedmate's gonna get these claddings here if I go and show claddings. So this is what Shedmate's actually getting, all of the linear meters summing up all of these guys. So let's come here and add a rule. And now the property that I want is length. So Shedmate has 73 items, 256 linear meters. But now I want to be more specific. I just want to get that the subcategory is equals to, and then I could select a few items. Or maybe I want to go there and say, hey, for the just looking here what we can get, maybe the material. Actually, it's name. So I'm going to look for name equals to trim deck. So now, like, look that now I'm just getting 49. If I was to select here corrugated, it would get 24 items. So I'm just getting trim deck. And then I need to add another conditional because I'm getting trim deck zinc. So I need to tell here that the color is going to be equal to zinc. Okay, so this is what I need to do to quantify trim deck zinc. So let me save this. Now I'm going to copy the rule and I'm going to color bond. So if I paste the rule here, it's just getting exactly the same rule we have created for trim deck zinc. But now I want to say, hey, this is not equal. Not equals to zinc. In other words, that's going to be color bond. So anything that's not zinc is going to be color bond. All right. So let's hit confirm, and now I can see I don't have any items there. So to play with it a little bit, I could go here and go to my trim deck. Let me just show all. And I want to select just this wall, and I'm gonna edit this wall individually, and I'm gonna change this wall to Wallaby, right? So I'm gonna save this shed, and here I'm gonna save my quotation. Let me just reload my page. And in my pricing calculations, now I can see that my trim deck zinc and trim deck collarbone, they're being quantified, 139 and 21. So if I go to my pricing here, I can see that I'm actually quantifying all of the trim deck around, and I'm quantifying the trim deck Wallaby here, but not the collarbone yet on the roof. So this is why having a model and just manipulating that model helps me to kind of check if that's actually working or not. But after we do everything for one model on our pricing database, what we can do is just, you know, open different shed projects that we have designed inside Shedmate and just apply the same costing database so we can see the impact of it. So what I mean by it is pretty much this. If I save this database again, I'll just save as a new one here, in this case, database, code form, database 2. Now if I go to another project, so let me just jump here to my jobs, and I'm gonna get this Michael Jackson here. So let me open this project, and now I want to select a specific database for that one. So I can just, you know, go here to my instant quoting, and I want to load another database for that project. I'm going to use that one I have just saved. And now if I go to my pricing calculations and check, so now I can see that's getting all of that trim deck around. So once again, that's another model differently from this one I was using. But using the same database that I'm building. So it means that, okay, for this specific model, Shedmate's getting all of the purlins, it's getting all of the rafters, so it looks good. It's actually, you know, aligning to what I have been building here. And you can see that most of our pricing calculations are going to be 0, but some will be quantified. If you want to just to filter the ones that are actually applicable for the shed, we can just go and say, hey, I want all of the items that the price total is greater than 0. So this is what we're quantifying for this project so far. C115, 150 12, 150 19, top hats, and trim deck collarbone. So this is what's being quantified for this specific project. And then we keep building up, right? Okay, that was just an example. Let's go back to this model here we're playing with. Let's go to our instant quoting. And then continue doing the same for the remaining items. Cover sheets. So this is a very nice trick we can use with Shedmate. So now I'm adding a rule, and the rule is actually length. But instead of summing up, look how nice this is. Instead of summing up all of these items, as we're doing here, you have 73 items in corrugated or collarbone. I want actually, instead of sum up, go here and say, I want the maximum of. And look how nice. Shedmate looked at all of the cladding types I have, and he said, hey, the maximum I've got here is one cladding that's 5.12 meters. And that's pretty much what I want. I just want to have a cover sheet for that trim deck or corrugated that's 5.12 meters. And then I could just multiply by 2 if that's actually the larger. So just split that and have one for corrugated, another one for trim deck. So I could do that just by moving back to my pricing database, looking for cover, and maybe duplicate this. So once again, there are multiple ways to do the same thing. So I can have one cover sheet for trim deck, another cover sheet for corrugated, right? So this goes as cladding, or I could put this as, who knows, installation. I could do something else. But they're both linked. So let me jump to my pricing calculation. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this item. Actually, sorry, not duplicating, because this is linked to cover sheets for corrugated. Let me just delete. Say that's going to be trim deck, cover sheet for corrugated. And now, just going to go back the trim deck. So cover sheet for trim deck. Yeah, this one, there's nothing linked. So let me link that one, navigate. And now I have the cover sheet for corrugated and trim deck. And here I can set up that rule saying I want to add a rule, and I want to get the maximum of, and the conditional modifier, this is going to be length obviously, the conditional modifier is that the name is equals to corrugated. So the longest corrugated item I've got is 3.98 meters. If you want to add 2, all you have to do here is multiply that by 2, right? But I'm just selecting one. Let's say it goes on top. That's it. That's just one sample. Confirm. And then I can do exactly the same. Copy the rule and just apply that for trim deck. Paste the rule. Instead of corrugated, now I have trim deck. And instead of 3 meters, I have 5.12 meters. So this is how we just created our cover sheets to protect trim deck and collarbone corrugated in the delivery. And then we can do exactly the same for the corrugated that we did for trim deck here. So I'm just gonna copy the same rule for zinc, open, paste the rule. Instead of trim deck, I want corrugated. So we have here the roof, and let's copy the same here for collarbone. And now instead, I've just copied this one. So instead of trim deck, I want corrugated. That's not equals to zinc. In other words, it's collarbone. Good. So now let's save this quotation. And now I'm quantifying now my cladding for the roof. I'm quantifying now my internal frames. I'm quantifying here the cladding that goes on my sliding panel that I've got there. And then I'm quantifying as well something that's not in the model, but I use the trick to do. That's the cover sheets for the delivery of those. Very cool. Let's jump to other items in our model.